There is a moment that happens so fast most people never register it. It happens before words form, before you decide what you actually want to say, before your mind catches up. Your body has already answered. Someone asks for something, a favor, time, agreement, silence. And before you think, your throat tightens slightly. Your breath shortens, your posture adjusts just enough to reduce friction, and the word yes becomes easier than the word no. Most people assume this is politeness, or kindness, or weakness. It's none of those. It's a decision made by the nervous system. Your nervous system is constantly scanning one thing in social situations, not logic, not fairness, not your long-term well-being. Risk. Specifically, social risk. Who might react badly? Who might withdraw? Who might create tension you'll have to manage? And the moment your body senses that refusal carries more uncertainty than compliance, it makes a trade. Not consciously, not verbally, physiologically. Your chest tightens just enough to limit breath. Your throat constricts slightly, narrowing expression. Your voice softens before you notice it happening. This is not fear. Fear is loud. This is regulation. The nervous system choosing the option that keeps the environment predictable. That's why it feels reasonable. You don't feel forced. You don't feel controlled. You feel mature. You tell yourself it's not worth pushing back, that it's easier to just agree, that you'll deal with it later. But later rarely comes because the decision already happened inside your body. What makes this difficult to see is that the nervous system learned this strategy early, not from dramatic moments, not from obvious punishment, from small, repeated experiences. Times when saying no led to disappointment, when disagreement changed someone's tone, when asserting yourself created distance you couldn't explain. Nothing extreme, just enough discomfort for the body to remember. So the system adapted. It learned that compliance keeps the environment stable, that agreement reduces friction, that refusal introduces variables. And the nervous system does not like variables. It prefers outcomes it can predict. So, over time, your body learned to answer before you do. This is why compliance often happens faster than intention. You don't weigh options. You don't debate internally. You simply feel a pull toward yes, and only afterward does your mind step in to justify it. You call it being helpful, being flexible, being understanding. But underneath those explanations, something quieter is happening. You are transferring power without realizing it. Not because the other person demanded it, not because they hold authority, but because your nervous system decided that resistance carried too much uncertainty. This is why compliance feels physical. You can feel it in your throat, in your jaw, in the way your voice loses firmness. And because the response is embodied, not cognitive, you assume it's part of who you are. You think you're just not confrontational, not assertive, not the kind of person who pushes back. But this isn't personality, it's a learned safety response. The problem is not that your nervous system does this. The problem is that it does it automatically, even when the risk is no longer real. So the pattern repeats. You agree to things you resent later. You commit to obligations that drain you. You nod along in moments where something inside you wanted to pause. And because nothing explodes immediately, the system reinforces itself. The nervous system learns from outcomes, not intention. And the outcome is usually relief. No conflict, no awkward silence, no visible rupture. So the body marks the strategy as successful. This is how compliance becomes invisible. You don't experience it as losing power. You experience it as keeping the peace. But peace built on self-erasure is expensive. It costs energy, clarity, presence. Over time, you begin to feel vaguely resentful without knowing why.
tired after conversations that seemed harmless, disconnected from your own preferences. And the most confusing part is that no one else seems to be doing anything wrong, because the transfer happened inside you. Here's what most people never hear. You don't need confidence to change this pattern. You don't need better boundaries. You don't need to rehearse stronger responses. Those come later, if at all. What changes the pattern is noticing the moment. The exact second your body tightens, the subtle urge to smooth things over, the impulse to answer quickly instead of honestly. That moment is the leverage point, because once you notice it, you introduce a pause, and that pause interrupts the automatic transfer of power. You don't have to say no. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to confront anyone. You simply don't rush to comply. You let the sensation exist without obeying it. At first, this feels uncomfortable, like you're doing something wrong, like you're being difficult, like tension is about to appear. But then something important happens. Nothing collapses. The room doesn't turn against you. The relationship doesn't end. The world doesn't destabilize. And the nervous system receives new data. It learns that hesitation is survivable, that neutrality is allowed, that you don't have to resolve every request immediately. This is how the system updates. Not through insight, not through forcing behavior, through experience. Each time you allow yourself a pause instead of immediate compliance, the rule weakens, slowly. The nervous system stops assuming that refusal equals danger, stops treating agreement as the only safe exit, and over time, something shifts. You begin to feel choice again, not dominance, not defiance, choice. You realize that compliance was never about being kind, it was about keeping the environment predictable. And once predictability is no longer the highest priority, something else becomes possible. Presence. Because when your body stops answering for you, your voice comes back, quietly, naturally, without force. And that's when compliance stops being automatic and becomes a decision you actually agree with.